Hello and welcome to Just Vintage Crochet. Today I want to work some more filet crochet with you. I found this beautiful pattern. It's an Alice Brooks pattern. I've never worked it before. In this, I'm going to work the first 15 rows with you because that's going to get us into this long space work here. And I think other than that, you guys, especially if you watched the peacock trellis video, you pretty much know how to work all of this. So I'm going to work with you until we get into this section here, and we'll work a couple of rows of this section so you have it down pat how to do it. So video 1, we will cover the flower motif. Video 2, we will cover the butterfly motif as it's just a little bit more technical. So if you want to pick up this pattern, you will find it in the Etsy shop. It will not have any of these markings on it. I wrote all these markings, but you can look and see what I've done here. I simply marked where all the 10. This one here is only 9, as we are working 39 squares wide, or spaces wide. So that's why this is only 9. And we are working 40 rows up, and I have all of those marked. And also, if you do choose to get this pattern, you will see that I will include my handwritten copy of the pattern. Yes, it's handwritten. I'm sorry. I simply do not have time to type it out, but I did my best to make it as legible as possible. What you will find in the handwritten portion is what makes a space. It is described. What makes a long space? That's going to be chain 5, skip 5, double crochet into the 6. Of course, the video is going to go over that as well. What makes a block, and also you will see at the end of every row I simply wrote turn. That's because our turns are identical for every row of this pattern. You're going to chain 5 and turn, and a chain 5 is a double crochet plus chain 2. We are not working a border on this pattern. So I do have it wrote all the way out to row 40. So I will simply scan and copy this and include this with the pattern. I do hope that you can read my writing. Like right here, you know, you can see that says 1 long space. You know, it's pretty, 4 blocks, 8 space, turn. It's pretty legible, I think. So let's get right into the pattern. What you will need is any size thread, a corresponding hook that goes with the thread, or any size yarn that you want. Just if you're going to use a yarn and not a thread, go down about 2 or 2.5 sizes. So if you're going to use a yarn like this, for example, this calls for a 4mm hook. I would use a 2.5mm. That way you get good defined stitches. So in this pattern, I will be using number 10 cotton and a 1.5mm hook. Here we go. A 1.5mm hook, or a number 7 if you're using a vintage steel hook. Now this isn't going to be the right size. This pattern, I know I keep saying I'm sorry. So this pattern, I think, wants us to use a size 20 thread. I did not want to do that on camera. If you use a size 20, it should be 10 by 10 inches each square. These are not little squares. They're pretty good size. Or you can use a number 50 mercerized cotton, which is very small, and it will be 6.5 by 6.5. Now, bear in mind, these are not meant to be small squares. If you note the bedspread, look how big those squares are. This is not meant to be small, okay? The only way you can change the size, because on the peacock trellis pattern, someone asked, how can I change the size of this? You cannot change the stitch count in any way. This is a picture. If you change the stitch count, you throw the whole picture off. The only way to change the size is to change your material and hook size. That is literally the only way. All right, so let's get right into this. Grab your material, grab your hook that you need, and here we go. We are not working a border on these squares as they are intended to be sewn together. So we are working a narrow margin or invisible border. Either phrase works. Okay, we're going to start with a chain of 122. Of course, I'm going to go 125. Only because I live in a house full of young people and a dog, and I get very easily distracted by a lot of the traffic. So I'm going to chain 125 and I will just unravel those extra 3 chains at the end if I don't need them. Okay, I will be right back. Okay, I have my 122. I just chained 125 so I could have a few extra. So into the 8th chain from the hook, work a double crochet. I'm going to work in these back bumps. I just feel like it creates a straighter seam or a straighter edge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There we go. You're going to chain 2. This will be the repeat. Chain 2, skip 2 chains, and in the 3rd chain over, work a double crochet. Chain 2, 1, 2, skip 2 chains, and in the 3rd chain over, work a double crochet. All the way to the end, you should have 39 blocks, as this pattern is 39 blocks wide. Okay, so keep doing this until you can count 39 blocks. Okay, all done with row 1. Row 1 was 39 spaces and turn. Now row 2, we're going to work 18 spaces, 3 blocks, 18 spaces. So we're going to do our turn, which is chain 5, into the next double crochet over, work a double crochet into the top. Chain 2, next double crochet over, work a double crochet. Continue to do work in this pattern repeat until you have 18 spaces that you can count. So now we have 3 spaces, chain 2, next double crochet, work a double. It's 4 spaces, chain 2, next double crochet over, work a double, okay? Keep doing this. Now we have 5 spaces until we have 18, and then come on back and we will work 3 blocks. Okay, 18 spaces worked. Now let's work our 3 blocks. In filet crochet, the last stitch you worked is also the first stitch of your next direction in the pattern. So our next direction in the pattern is to work 3 blocks. 1 block is 4 double crochet, but our first double crochet is already worked, as again the last stitch wears 2 hats. It's both the end and the beginning of your last stitch and your next stitch, so that counts as 1. Now we're going to work into the chain stitches. Try not to work around the chain if you possibly can, but if you have to, I understand. So into each chain stitch you work 1 double crochet into each one, and then 1 double crochet into the double crochet over. Now you see there are 4 double crochet worked, but we only made 3 of them, but that is 1 block. Again, the last stitch of your last repeat is also the first stitch of your next repeat or your next stitch. So we have a double crochet here already worked, so that counts as 1. Next chain over, that's 2, next chain over, that's 3, next double crochet over, that's 4. Okay, we got to do 1 more, that's 2 blocks worked. So here we have 1. So pretty much when we work a block, we only have to work 3 double crochet, but I wanted to explain it to you so that it made sense. Why? You know, if it's not explained, then no one explained it to me. I just had to figure it out for myself. But explanation helps make it easier to understand why, to envision it. Then you can work filet patterns no problem without any verbal instruction. You just know. That's 2, and then our 3rd. Now we're going to work 18 blocks. Or no, now we're going to work 18 spaces. Forgive me. So you chain 2, next double crochet over, gets a double crochet. then chain 2, next double over, just like how we started. Okay, so come on back when you get to the end, and we will work the last stitch together. Okay, so when you get to the end of the row, just chain 2, count 2 of your chains over 1, 2, and in the third chain, work your double crochet. Chain 5, and we're going to repeat everything we did before. So this row here is a copy repeat of the last row we just worked. As you can see, row 3 is 18 spaces, 3 blocks, 18 spaces, and turn. So go ahead and repeat everything we did, and then come on back when you get to the end and we will work row 4. Okay, let's move on to row 4, and I will also say every row in this pattern is going to start with a space. So if you ever just want to move on ahead and be ready for the next row, just when you get to the end of the row, go ahead and chain 5, turn, and work your first double crochet, because every row is going to start with a space. So let's do that now. Chain 5. See, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And work your first space. And actually, let's see here. The way I work my filet patterns when I write them down, everything under the yellow sticky pad is what the little post-it note, that's what I work at a time. So I'm going to work 15 space, 2 block, 1 space, 3 block. Okay, so let's start with 15 space. So I'll be right back. Go ahead and work your 15 spaces. Okay, that is 15 spaces. Now we're going to work 2 blocks. That's 1 block. Then 2 double crochet into the next chain space, or into the next chains, and then 1 into the double. Okay, that's 2 blocks. Now 2 blocks always equals 7 double crochet. Now we're going to work 1 space and then 3 blocks. Okay, so 1 space. Now work 3 blocks. So I'll be right back. This is already, if you look down here, 1, 2, 3, count your spaces down below, and that tells you kind of how many blocks you have up here. So just work every stitch here, and then I'll be right back. Okay, 3 blocks worked. Now we're going to work this last section right here, and that is 1 space, 2 blocks, 15 spaces. Okay, now as we go in the pattern, just for the sake of the video not being 4 hours long, once I know you guys have it down pat and you don't need the benefit of a visual anymore, that was 1 space. Now we're going to work 2 blocks over the next 2 spaces. Then I'm simply going to jump on, tell you what we're working, jump off, and then show you the finished work. And I know that that will be good enough because you guys will pretty much have how to make these stitches completely secured to memory. Okay, so there's our 2 blocks. And again, if you just look at the spaces down below, that tells you how many blocks above you just worked. Now we're going to work 15 spaces. So I will be right back. Go ahead and work 15 spaces. Then you can chain 5, turn, and work your first block of round 5. And to say work your first space of round 5, forgive me, your first space. Let's move on to row 5. I'm going to start with my chain 5. And we're going to work 8 spaces. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm going to work 8 spaces in. Okay, now we're going to work 1 block, 5 spaces, and then 11 blocks, okay? So that's 1 block, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, and then 11 blocks. All right? And here I will show you what that looks like if you need to write it down. 8 spaces. Okay, we already did that. 1 block, 5 spaces, 11 blocks. So I will be right back. I'm going to work all of that. 1 block, 5 spaces, 11 blocks. Okay, I wanted to show you a little trick on how to count your rows. On how to count your blocks. When you have a long string of blocks like this, you have to work. So bear in mind, 1 block is 4 stitches. So just count your first 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1 block. After that, just count 3 stitches at a time to equal 1 block. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, okay? All right, now the great thing about this pattern is everything you do at the start, you're gonna mirror at the end. So now we're gonna work 5 spaces, 1 block, 8 spaces, exactly how we started, because we started with 8 spaces, 1 block, 5 spaces. That's precisely how we're going to end. So we work 5 spaces, then 1 block, and then 8 spaces to the end. Okay, I'll be right back. That's 5, 1, 8. Okay, now on to row 6. We're going to work 8 spaces, 4 blocks, 1 long space, and then 4 blocks. So let's start with 8 spaces and 4 blocks. Okay, 8 spaces, 4 blocks. I'll be right back. Okay, so we have our 8 spaces, 4 blocks. Now let's work our first long space. So that's going to be a chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're basically going to skip 2 spaces because we have to skip 5 stitches, right? So each space has 2 stitches within it. Then we have the double crochet here. So that is 5 stitches. So into the next double crochet over beyond 2 spaces, go ahead and work your double crochet. And that is a long space. Now we're going to work 4 blocks. Let's move this over here. 4 blocks, 3 spaces, 4 blocks. I'll hold this up so that you can just pause the screen right here. This is what we're working now. 4 blocks, 3 spaces, 4 blocks, 1 long space. Okay, so 4 blocks, 3 spaces, 4 blocks, 1 long space. I'll be right back. Okay. So we just worked 4 blocks, 3 spaces, 4 blocks, and then we worked another long space. Now we are going to end with, right here, 4 blocks. Let me hold this up for you. 4 blocks, 8 spaces, turn. Okay, so 4 blocks, 8 spaces, and then turn, and then chain 5 for your turn. Okay, let's move on to row 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're going to start with 8 spaces again, but we're going to work 5 blocks instead of 4. So go ahead and do that. 8 spaces and 5 blocks. There we go. I'll be right back. We'll notice that your 5th block ended in the middle of our long space. So just if you have the pattern, refer to your chart. This is correct. Okay, now we are going to work 1 space. And let me just show you. Now we're going to work 1 space, 4 blocks, 1 space. Okay. So 1 space, then work 4 blocks and 1 space. I'll be right back. Okay, there we go. We have, oh, nope. I have to work my 1 space, don't I? Fail. Okay, now we have our 1 block, 1 space, 4 blocks, 1 space. Get with it. Okay, now we're going to work 1 block, 1 space, 4 blocks. 1 block, 1 space. There you go. You probably couldn't see nothing there, could you? 1 block, 1 space, 4 blocks. Okay, 1 block, 1 space, 4 blocks. Okay, so that was our 1 block, 1 space, 4 blocks. Now we're going to work 1 space, 5 blocks, and then we're 8 space. So we're going to work 1 space right here going halfway through our long space. So 1 space, 5 blocks starting here into our long space, 5 blocks, 8 spaces. Exactly how we did over here. You see how we have 1 space, 5 blocks, and then 8 spaces. We're just mirroring that over here. Okay, so one more time, that's going to be 1 space, 5 blocks, 8 spaces. I'll be right back. We should have told you whenever you work a space into your long space, you want to count 2 stitches over, and into that 3rd stitch is where you want to work your double. That's going to put you in the middle of the 5. So then you'll have 2 chains here and 2 chains here. Okay, and then since we're working a block, you just yarn over and start working in those last 2 chains, your first block of your 5. There we go. Oops, my bad. Okay, there we go. This is how it should look. Okay, let's get into round 8, or row 8, sorry. So you're going to start with 8 spaces, 3 blocks, 1 space. So 8 spaces, 3 blocks, 1 space. Okay? 8, 3, 1. I'll be right back. So there is our 8 spaces. Let me open that up a little bit for you. 8 spaces, 3 blocks, 1 space. Now we're going to work 2 blocks, 1 long space, 2 blocks. Okay? So 1, 2 blocks, 1 long space, and then 1, 2 blocks. I'll be right back. I wanted to give you a quick reminder. A long space is chain 5, skip 5 stitches, and into the 6th. Work your double crochet. Or as we did down here, you will skip 2 spaces, and then in the next double crochet, work a double, okay? So that's just a quick reminder for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches skipped. So here we have our 2 blocks, 1 long space, 2 blocks. Now we're going to work 3 space, 2 blocks, 1 long space. So 3 spaces, 2 blocks, 1 long space. Okay? 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3. Then we have 2 blocks and 1 long space. I'll be right back. Okay, so that's our 3 spaces, 2 blocks, 1 long space. Now we're going to work 2 blocks, 1 space. Here we go. 2 blocks, 1 space, 3 blocks. Okay, 2 blocks, 1 space, 3 blocks. I'll be right back. Okay, now we're just going to finish off the 8 spaces, then chain 5 and turn. Okay, so just finish your last 8 spaces, but this is what we have now, starting to form those flowers. Okay, now let's work row 9. We're going to start with 4 space, 4 blocks. Okay, 4 spaces and 4 blocks. I'll be right back. Okay, 4 spaces and 4 blocks. Now we're going to work 1 space, 3 blocks. Okay, 1 space, skip in the 3rd stitch over, and then 3 blocks. I'll be right back. It looks like our 3 blocks are going to go into this space right here. So 2 blocks and then 1 more block. Okay, there we are. So that's our 1 space, and 3 blocks. Now I'm going to give you a little bit more homework because I think you guys are getting it. So I'll hold this up here, and if you need to pause, you can. We're going to work 1 space, 1 block, 1 space, 9 blocks. Okay? Space, block, space, 9 blocks. So I will be right back. Okay, there we go. We have our 1 space, 1 block, 1 space, 9 spaces, and you will end up halfway across your long space. Now we're going to work 1 space, 1 block, 1 space, 3 blocks. So space, block, space, 3 blocks. Be right back. Okay, there we go. We have got space, block, space. Let me move this so you can see. There we go. Space, block, space, 3 blocks. Now we're going to end with 1 space, 4 blocks, 4 space, then turn. Okay, space, 4 block, 4 space, turn. I'll be right back. Okay, so there we are. Now let's move on to row 10. And we're going to start with 5 spaces, 4 blocks, 1 space, 3 blocks. So I will hold this up if you want to pause. 5 space, 4 blocks, 1 space, 3 blocks. So come on back whenever you have all of this. Okay, so we have our 5 spaces, 4 blocks, 1 space, 3 blocks. Now let's move on. Look at the flowers are really taking shape. Okay, here is, and you can always pause the screen. Okay, now we're going to work 2 space, 4 block, 1 space, 4 block. Okay, so if you want to pause the screen and write that down, 2 space, 4 block, 1 space, 4 block. So come on back whenever you have that. Okay, so 2 space, 4 block, 1 space, 4 block. Let's move on. Now we're going to work 2 space. Go ahead and pause here. We're going to work everything under the little note. 2 space, 3 block, 1 space, 4 block. I'll be right back. Okay, and let's end this row with our 5 spaces, just like how we started. Then you will chain 5 for your turn, and then we will start on row 11. Okay, I will be right back. Okay, there we go. Really taking shape, the picture. Okay, let's move on to row 11. We're going to start with 5 spaces and 5 blocks. Okay, so just work 5 spaces and 5 blocks. I'll be right back. Okay, so there we go. We have our 5 spaces and 5 blocks. Now we are going to work, and I will hold this up so you can pause the screen. 1 space, oh, there we go. 1 space, 2 long spaces, 4 blocks, 1 long space. I will actually work these out with you just because we really want to get a good grasp on these long spaces before I leave you to it. Okay, so we're going to start with 1 space. There we go. Pardon my doggy. Hang on a minute. Let's let him eat real quick. Okay, now we're going to work 2 long spaces. So let's chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's count 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and into the 6th stitch. Work your double crochet, and we're going to do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we have 2 spaces here, so we're going to skip 2 spaces and into the next double crochet over. We work our double crochet. Okay, now we're going to work 4 blocks. Sorry, I had to look around my phone to see. So let's do 4 blocks real quick. 1, 2, and 3. That's 1, 1, 2, and nope, there we go. 3, that's 2, 1, 2, and 3, that's 3. Then just 3 more double crochet will make 4. 1, 2, and 3, that's 4. Well, we'll just do that one again. Okay, now we're going to work 1 space, and let's see here, 1 space, right. Then we're going to move on to the next section. So this is everything we just worked right there. Okay, next section over. You can pause your screen right here. We're going to work 4 blocks, 1 space, 2 long spaces, 5 blocks. And if you want to, you can just finish it off with 5 spaces. So really, if you want to, work this whole section right here, and that's the end of this row. 4 blocks, 1 space, 2 long spaces, 5 blocks, 5 space, then turn. Okay? So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I'm not going to do it on camera. I just wanted to work out these long spaces with you so that you have them. Okay. I'll be right back. I'm going to work everything we just looked at. Okay, excellent. Now I already chained 5 and turned. Let's move on to row 12. And we're going to start with all of this. 5 space, 2 block, 1 space, 2 block. 5 space, 2 block, 1 space, 2 block. So I will be right back. There we go. 5 spaces, 2 blocks, 1 space, 2 blocks. Let's move on to the next section, and we're going to work 1 space, 2 long spaces, 1 space, 2 blocks. Go ahead and pause your screen and write all of this down if you need to. 1 space, 2 long spaces, 1 space, 2 blocks. So I'll be right back. I'm going to go ahead and work all of that out. I'll probably show you this part. Of course, right when Merlin is in a barking mood. Just a moment. Okay, I think he's over it now. All right, so we're going to chain 2 for our first space. That first space is going to put us into the middle of this long space. So you may notice throughout the pattern random spaces before working a set of long spaces. The reason we have to work it out like this is because that's the only way to get us into the middle of the space. It's very important. So if it sets us in the middle of the space, now all we can do is work the middle of each space to create this sort of brick formation. Okay, so now we are in the middle of the long space, and we're going to work into the middle of this one. So we're going to chain 5 because it wants us to work 2 long spaces. 3, 4, 5. And of course, we're going to skip 5 stitches, but the quickest way to do that is just count 2 chains, and in the 3rd chain over, go ahead and work your double crochet. And that's your 5 stitches. If I said 5 spaces, I meant to say stitches. And I need to work that a little firmer. There we go. Okay, that's our first long space there. Now we got to work 1 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And skip 5 spaces, which is going to put us into that first double crochet on the end. And there we go. That's how this section will work out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of this off camera, and I will be back for our next section. This is our whole section worked. Now, lost my hook. There we go. All right, and that was 1 space, 2 long spaces, 1 space, 2 blocks. Now we're going to work right here on the end, 3 space, 2 blocks, 3 long space, So 3 space, 2 blocks, 3 long space. So I will be right back. Okay, there we go. Now let's move on to the last section. Okay, so now we're going to work 2 blocks, 1 space, 2 blocks, 5 space to end. So go ahead and pause the screen there if you need to. 2 block, 1 space, 2 block, 5 space. Then chain 5 for turn. I'll be right back. Okay, that is row 12. I did go and fix this one. I noticed I only had 3 chains instead of 5, so it was kind of buckling it a little. So that is fixed. Okay, let's move on to row 13. And we are going to work 6, here we go. Move this over one. There we go. 6 space, 2 blocks, 1 space, 1 block. Okay, 6 space, 2 blocks, 1 space, 1 block. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. I will be right back. Okay, so here we go. 6 spaces, 2 blocks, 1 space, 1 block. Let's move on to the next section. Okay, now you can pause your screen here as well. We're going to work 1 space, 9 long spaces, 1 block, 1 space. Okay, 1 space, 9 long, 1 block, 1 space. I will be right back. Okay, so we have our 1 space, 9 long spaces, 1 block, 1 space. Okay, now let's move on to the last section of this row right here, and we're going to work 2 blocks, 6 spaces, and then chain 5 for turn. Okay, so I will be right back. Okay, great. Now let's move on to row 14. 7 space, 2 blocks, 10 long spaces. Okay, right here. 7 space, 2 blocks, 10 long spaces. So let's work that and then come on back. Okay, there we go. Now let's finish off this row. And we're going to work 1 space, 2 blocks, and 7 spaces. Then chain 5 for turn. So that's 1 space, 2 blocks, 7 spaces, and then turn. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, now the final row I'm going to show you is going to be row 15, and I feel like after row 15 you'll have a pretty good grasp on how to do the rest of the pattern. And I will show this pattern for those who are unable to pick the pattern up in the Etsy shop. So don't worry. You will be able to still carry on and work. All right, so for this row, I guess I should show you, we're going to work 4 spaces, 3 blocks, 12 long spaces. Okay? 4 spaces, 3 blocks, 12 long spaces. Come on back. Okay, 12 long spaces. Now let's finish off this row, with 1 space, 3 blocks, 4 spaces, and I forgot to write turn. Okay, and then turn. So 1 space, 3 blocks, 4 spaces, and then chain 5 for turn. Okay, so this is the end of row 15. There we go. And I really like it. It's turning out quite nice. So I'm going to show you the pattern now, so you can pause the screen, write it down, whatever you need to do. This will be for those who are unable to pick up the pattern. And then stay tuned for some reveal shots of the flower. Okay, here are rows 16 through 22. Go ahead and pause your screen. Okay, rows 23 through 28. You can pause. Rows 29 through 33. and rows 34 through 40. I do hope that that helps. You can just pause the screen and continue working. And then just, like I said, stick around for some reveal shots, and then look for the next video will be the butterfly. And the butterfly is going to have a little bit of different stitching in it. I can give you a sneak peek of that. So we're going to have a little bit of different stitching, a little bit more technical, but you're learning a lot about filet crochet, and that's the most important part because there is a world of filet crochet out there. Okay, guys, just stick around for a moment and I will be right back with some reveal shots of this one. It'll probably be the next day as it's getting to be sunset now. It's getting late. Okay, so here is the final result. Let's see if I can pan out a little. You get a really good idea of what it looks like. I really like it. This is not blocked. This I intend to go on my curtain, so I want it to have movement, but with it not being blocked, it's got some good hold. You know, it's not too floppy. But here's how this one looks. I really love how the center really makes it look different than everything else and helps the flowers to absolutely stand out. So this was made in a day. I just made it while I was kind of going about my day, picking it up, putting it down, watching YouTube videos, whatever, but I got this done in a day. It wasn't that bad. So I'm going to go ahead and write up the other pattern next and get started on that one for you guys in a tutorial. So let me know what you think in the comments. Are you going to make this? And are you going to make it using the same materials? What's your plans? Okay, guys, love you lots, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.